So what I find so interesting is, for example, when you go to the dentist, they say you should brush your teeth twice a day, right? I have been brushing my teeth only in the morning for literally the last 7 years because I realized that man is creating all these problems by trying to tell people to do something, so you go back to them. And things like fluoride in water and toothpaste fucks up the penile gland, which I'm sure you know. It damages your penile gland, which means you haven't got the maximum power that it has. And so that's what's in loads of water, hence why I have filtered water. But then all this toothpaste, you're using it twice a day to clean our teeth, but it causes other issues. And I'm convinced that if you brush too much on a tooth, you're gonna break down the whatever like the outer shell of a tooth, which ends up causing issues. And that if you think about years and years and years ago, what people used to do was they used to find a twig or something like a caveman. He'd have a little twig or a chicken bone and just, cut out, floss out the meat in his teeth. And it's unnecessary to brush our teeth twice a day. And actually, the main problem is what we're eating, not how often we brush. Because if you eat the correct foods, then it won't stick to your teeth and cause damage. So again, it's a cycle of problems created by man, and then man has a solution, which ends up creating another problem.
Super interesting. You went there. My teeth are very valuable to me, and that was my biggest insecurity as a kid. Was my teeth. I had one tooth that was out of place, and my family couldn't afford braces, and I was like, one day I'm gonna have like nice white teeth, a nice like straight smile, and but also we talked right before this. It depends on what I'm eating or drinking, because if I have sugar on my teeth, I must brush it before I go to bed. Do not want to think about the sugar just messing with my teeth all day long. So, but I can relate to what you just described with the fluoride and all of these things. I like to think of my toothpaste now doesn't have those harmful things, but I'm actually going to check after this now.
Yeah, I was speaking to my sister's boyfriend the other day, and we were speaking about how, he had braces growing up, and because he didn't wear his retainer, which is a thing that you put in your teeth and sleep with it, so your teeth don't move, that his teeth as a result have gone wonky. And I said to myself, that's crazy. So if you get braces and spend, £3,000, unless you get it for free off insurance or you're in a national health system, that you've got to wear this thing for the rest of your life. And I said, just imagine being 80, right? And most grandparents have false teeth, and you've got this essentially rugby gum shield, and your grandchildren say, "What is this?" And you say, "Oh, 80 years ago, I was told to put this in my mouth, and because I just follow what everyone says, I still use it." Like, it doesn't even make sense. So what they're saying is that if you don't wear your braces, your retainer, your teeth aren't going to go back to how they were, which is fucked. So again, what the fuck? It's a system that you spend all this money on a dentist. He does your shit and says, right, to keep this, you've got to wear this retainer forever. Don't tell me don't tell me it's my fault if your teeth go back to wonky if you don't listen to me. That is insane. And we're talking about 2,000-3,000 quid just to straighten your teeth up. Isn't that crazy?
It's actually is true what you just said. Like so I finally, my parents what allowed me to get braces, but was like the worst time in human history for me. I was 19 and I was in college, and the middle of my social my social revolution for me personally in college down in San Diego here in California, and all of a sudden my parents both had been divorced for years, but they both had really great insurance at the same time, and basically I could get braces if I wanted them. They were like, "This is the time to do it. You can get it for basically free." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, put braces on now. I'm 19. Like, I'm stepping into my adulthood. I was one of these humans. This is how much of an insecurity it was for me, though. The tooth that was messed up was on the left side of my mouth. So if you saw me, if I was like wanting to smile and you were on my right side, I'd get big, full like smile, and I was happy with that. But if you were on the left side of me, I would only smile with like a smirk, and you wouldn't see that messed up tooth. So a lot of people didn't even know that I had that over there. It was just me. And so 19, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this braces thing. But I told the dentist, I said, you have 6 months tops, and I have a really high threshold for pain. So we're going to tighten these like times 3. And I'll just tell you when it's too tight, and then you stop, and then I'll come back on the next appointment. He was like, Noel, you're crazy, but all right, whatever you want. And so he would tighten until I couldn't take it anymore, because I knew that it would loosen up like after I get used to it. And after like 4.5 months, I smiled in the mirror. I was like, good enough. And I went to the dentist. I said, take those off. Like, take these off. Like, I'm done with it. And then with the retainer now, I try to just wear it before it doesn't fit anymore. So I try to wear like once a month, so it doesn't before it doesn't fit. So then it's super painful. I wake up and my mouth is sore in the morning, but then I don't have to wear it again for another month. So I've I'm skirting the system as much as possible.
Yeah, that's the same for me. I got braces when I was at college and I was 17. So most people had them when they're like 13, 14. I had them bang in the middle of college where you're starting to see girls and everything. And you used to have lunch. And I remember having a sandwich and all the bread used to get stuck in my braces. And I had to go to the toilet with what I called a pipe cleaner and just like floss out all my bread from the sandwich. It was a nightmare. And yeah, absolute nightmare. And what's crazy is that if you think about how we're all interbreeding, different humans are interbreeding with different humans around the world, right? Bigger humans aren't supposed to breed with smaller humans. And yet you have, say, a bigger human mating with a small human, creating a kid. That person's going to have scoliosis, which is a back issue because you've got, say, a 6'5" person mating with a 5'8" person. And essentially you've got a 6'5" person's body trying to fit into a 5'8" person's body, hence why the skeletal is bent. Same for teeth. People's have wonky teeth is because they've got their brain or the skull of a 6'5" person trying to go into a skull of a 5'8" person, and the teeth are like, hang on, fucking hell, there's no room in here, so they're all squashed up, yeah. So therefore, you have braces. You spread out like the teeth, but then you become Kanye West after his accident. Now your fucking jaw is like a square, like an alien. So we're having braces because our teeth are wonky. You're opening up like your jawline, so you look like Kanye, yeah. And then when you sleep and you lay on your front, your teeth are such they're so close to your gums that you're getting ulcers. And I know this from experience. I had braces which opened up my teeth, and I sleep, and because my jaw is so expanded because of the braces, that I get blisters and ulcers on my gums. And if you flip it, if you have somebody who um has a parent who's bigger and one smaller, it's exactly the same for the opposite. You now have two little teeth where your jaw is tiny. You know what I'm trying to say? So you expand your mouth to make it, and you open your jaw. Other issues, you bite your tongue when you're eating. Yeah, my dad's got too many teeth. He bites his tongue, all because of his teeth have come out. But if you don't do that, then you have shitty teeth forever. Um, Again, this is scoliosis. I have studied people who I know for back issues. One parent is always bigger than the other. And so when you've got a Chinese person mating with a Jamaican person, and the difference of like structure, it's not nature's not supposed to be like that unless you had cars and trains and boats and planes. That wouldn't have happened. You've never got a person in India mating with a person in Jamaica because they wouldn't have known about each other. So that tribe and the size of that tribe is going to be different to the size of the tribe over there. And so we're mating like two dogs, a pedigree with a Great Dane, or let's just say Chihuahua with a Great Dane. I mean, that's not supposed to happen. I don't think it would happen because you need some kind of similarities in the DNA, like a cow can't mate with a sheep. But if you get like a donkey and the zebra, because it's similar, something can happen there. So, do you know what I'm trying to say?
I've never thought about that before, but I'm gonna start paying attention now to sizes of. I'll look at sizes of humans together, and then I'll pay attention to see if they have what their offspring is encountering and looking like. But it made total sense what you just said. I've never thought about that before, but that seems very and definitely what you described with two tribes from different parts of the planet mating with each other. Yeah, that couldn't have happened for sure, and that's I mean, everybody, especially like here in America, it's such a melting pot of people. I'm mixed with like four different things. So yeah, it's super interesting. My parents, I thought about my parents. They're similar. They're similar sizes for sure. So I think I got just the one tooth messed up because maybe there's enough of a difference in their sizes to where they messed up my one tooth. But it could be worse. I'm happy with it.
For example, you would look at someone and be like, wow, she is absolutely beautiful, right? And then
Mm.
you look at somebody else and be like, she's ugly. Well, I've worked this out. There's no such thing as good looking and ugly. It's in reflection to yourself. So if you are symmetrical, right, you're going to look at other people and look at people who are symmetrical. And ugly people are often not symmetrical, right? And they always go for ugly people. And I thought to myself, why does that good looking person not find the ugly person attractive? But that ugly person finds what I would call ugly, that person attractive. And why does the ugly person not look at, say, a great looking person like Brad Pitt and be like, he's good looking. I'm sure they do, but they don't focus on that because it's not really gonna ever happen. And I realized that good looking to somebody is based on their own perception of their family, their aunts and uncles, their grandchildren, their cousins, their neighbors, the people they went to school with, their brothers and their sisters. All those types of people, they look for those types of people. And if they are part of an unsymmetrical family, then that's all they've ever known is unsymmetrical. So you're going to look for unsymmetrical people, right? And if you are part of a symmetrical family, then all you're going to look for is people who are symmetrical. So there's no such thing as an ugly or good looking person. If you are a symmetrical person, you look for similarities of symmetry in other people, and the same for ugly people. And that just came to mind. There's no really purpose for that.
Great news for everybody out there is that everybody is somebody's type when you live on a planet with 8 billion people. So I know like what my eye catches, what catches the attention of my eye. But then I always make sure that if I'm, like, what's interesting, I'll share with you something funny because I've been single for a while. And so I'll do the online dating as well. And it's the up close, just the headshots, like where there's no like, you can't see like if this person, like, and I make it playful because if I can't see anything other than like a close up of your head, and I'm curious, I say, I'm okay with it either way, but I just want to know, like, do you have like arms and legs, like, or do you have these extra additional, do you have a torso? Like, is there anything, or is it just like, I'm playful about it and they know what I mean? Like, send some pictures if you want us to talk anymore. Because if I was seeing you in person, I would at least get to choose whether or not I'm attracted to you or not. I feel like I'm being robbed of my opportunity to be able to choose. And sometimes people were like, "Well, I didn't know you were like, are you superficial?" Like, no, I just want to see, like, do you have like additional features on your body, or are you floating head? You are okay. I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not shaming you for being a floating head. There's somebody that loves that. That's not my type.
Yeah, I also find that when people don't have any body pictures, it means that they are overweight, and that's not a problem because being overweight is just eating too much versus not enough exercise. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if somebody is insecure about the fact that they eat more than they exercise, then it's almost like you do have a responsibility to be upcoming and open and truthful. So, for example, if you're looking for love or whatever, and you just put your head and your chin's up so your fat under your chin is disappears, and you hold the camera, that is essentially the same as like lying and deceiving. And so somebody could put a lot of time and energy into talking to you, thinking you're of a similar size to them, right? And then you're not. And then that person will get annoyed how that person's not interested in them. And it's like, you got to take responsibility. What did you expect? And so this thing about hiding insecurities actually just makes them worse, just like drinking when you get nervous about thinking about something. Healing literally can happen the minute you process it. Most people don't process it. They start processing it. They feel that nervous energy. They drink. People just process it for that moment. Healing can happen so quick. And it's the same as grief. If somebody dies, go over them in your head, say what you were going to say to them in your mind as if they were here, let it go. And then you will be that you have this freedom. And it's sad because people hold on to things like that forever. And like they're 80 years old and they are still that person when they were, say, 20, which they ran from. And it's crazy because you literally can go left and your life is like this, or you can go right and your life's like that, based on something so simple like a girl rejecting you at school one time. And that literally becomes who you are forever. And it's very sad. And I'm realizing that this is all man made, meaning a pressure of how society should live in the first place. If there was no society, you're just kind of already in nature and doing what you're doing. But when society says it should be like this, you follow that. Your brain's saying, no, that's wrong. Come over here. You look around you, everyone's doing that. You're now like being pulled one way by Satan and pulled the other way by angels. And the only way it can change is if they want to change, but they have to have a reason why. Society, that generation has to be gone. So after future generations of 100 years where that they're died and the new one's born, society has to change completely. Otherwise, it would just go back into that pattern. So essentially, you can reset it after 3 generations, but the system of how we live has to change. So you don't see that. Like if you see it, you believe it, you follow it. If it's not there, then there is nothing to follow.
Absolutely. one of my favorite things to be aware of is how to release things that are no longer that have already that I'm certain are this way. So, for instance, the rejection thing that you just described, like I've always been someone where if I see someone that I'm interested in, it messes with my mind. If I have like a legitimate chance to speak to them, like if they're like right next to me, and I could say hello, and I don't, then it messes with my mind for some time because I'm like, why are you being a pussy? Like, just talk to them. And excuse my language for anybody out there. I've already heard Oliver swear at least once on
Say
this.
what you want.
Um,
I
but
swear a
yeah.
lot.
But then if I speak to this person and say that they're the rudest human on earth, like the meanest person on the planet, I'm okay with that because now I know. Like, thank you for showing me that. No, I won't be wanting to spend any time with you, and you obviously don't want to spend time with me either. So all good. Like I don't hold on to that, and so the fear of like rejection and like I was the same way even when it was like when I was working like sales jobs, like phone sales. Like you could be the biggest jerk on earth, and now I could get to move you off my list. I don't have to follow up with you anymore. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing with me that. Now I can move on. And so the same thing when it comes to even like death and dying. Not exactly the same thing, but I love knowing what you said as far as being able to even people that I never met, like when people die, like I'll connect with if they've even made me laugh even one time or raise my frequency even once while they were here. I always will connect with them. I'll connect with their energy and just gratitude and just tell them I appreciate them for the life that they lived and just the impact that they made on me. And I know that they're good. And thank you and I appreciate you. And I always feel like a nice like resonance. Like I did this when Kobe Bryant died, like when lots of people that have an impact, whether it be musicians or whoever. And we can obviously do the same thing even easier with our people that were close to us. But a lot of times, like you said, people are holding on so tight to the grief. I'm not that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, we're humans. So, I mean, I see why anybody would be sad. But at the same time, if you can appreciate the parts of life that were really loving and like really enjoyable with them, you can actually connect with them like out of these physical avatars, and they'll let you know that they still are very much aware of you and you could still be connected with them even though they're not here. So I love knowing what you just described.
Yeah, so I say to myself or whatever, if you had, say, 100 telephones and there was a voice behind them and you didn't know what they looked like, and when you spoke to them, if you connected to them, then you'd stay connected. And if you didn't connect with them, then you put the phone down, right? It doesn't matter what their body looks like. Now, if somebody knows who they are and it's going to be the same person forever, like Trump, he's pretty much the same person at 80 as he was when he was 18, right? Then that person's always going to be that person. So if somebody died, you can imagine what that person would say and get the same answer. If they've got work to do and they're still learning their lessons, then what they said at 20 might not be the same as what they would say at 50. So their advice might have matured. But once somebody has kind of found who they are, their advice is always going to be the same. So when somebody dies, they are still there. Like everything is spiritual, as you know, not physical. But yet we look for physical because everything around us is physical. So we think it's physical. So if, let's just say, a grandparent is in the ground, then you think of that as your grandparent, the physical body is now on the ground. They are now in the ground, but they're not in the ground because that person you connected to was a personality, was a spirit, was an energy, not the body. If you picked up the phone, there's 100 phones, and grandma was on line 4, and there was random people on the other lines, you would still connect to your nan on line 4 and connect to her and get that same feeling as if she was here in reality, because you're just listening to sounds, which is their voice. So when that person dies, they are still here. If you had a nan and you'd say, what would nan say? Let's just say you're going to see her next week. What would nan say? Oh, she'd say this. Okay, what if nan died 50 years ago? What would she say? She'd say this. It's exactly the same. So death is, I look at it, I imagine I had a grandparent in another country. Well, for all I know, he could still be in the other country. I told he died. I was told he died from an uncle. But how do I know? He might have just wanted to hide for a bit, or maybe he was wanted by some lone people, and he didn't want people to believe he was alive anymore. So that person is alive. I'm grieving like he's gone, but he isn't, which means the grieve's in my mindset. Or if he has gone and he's in another country, I wouldn't know that he's gone anyway. So if I was thinking to myself, what would he say if he was here? It's the same outcome. So when death happens, it is it's a mind thing because they're still there. You won't see them physically, but we connect to the spirit, not the physical person. Hence, for the phone thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That could give someone so much peace, like, because, and not just being able to connect with people that have left this physical body. Sometimes I'll meet people that think, and it just sounds so depressing. And I'm not like trying to like slander anyone's beliefs, but I can't help myself. I always have to say, if I could offer like maybe an additional perspective, take it or leave it. Like, you don't have to take this with you. I'm not, it is what it is. But for people that think that once you die, like that's the end, like that's it, like literally all that we are is this like one life experience. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so depressing. Because now all the people that we die, quote unquote, prematurely. I mean, what about them? Like that was their one life experience. They lived like 6 months or like 3 years old, or like, oh my, that would suck if that was like all that there was. So like I say, I just like to remind people that energy, can't be created nor destroyed. Just like basic law of like science. And and if you really want to test this out, like do what Oliver just said, you can connect with people, like they're on. I like that analogy, like they're on one of the like the phone lines, and they'll let you know that they still are very much aware of you, and you can feel their presence and continue to have that relationship with them. That gave me all the peace that I needed to have as far as what happens after we die. Like it doesn't matter to me, like if I go play in another dimension or if I come back and take on another human body here. Like all I know is that I will continue to exist, and that gives me enough peace to where I'm like, I'm going to enjoy being in this physical avatar, because like I enjoy having the awareness that I have in this physical avatar, and there's things that I want to create while I'm here. So I'm going to just appreciate all the time in this body and see what we can create.
It's like you could think, what would Trump say in this situation? What would Jimmy Fallon say in this situation? What would your grandfather say, or even your great grandfather? Whether they're alive or they're dead, the answer's still the same, subject to them knowing who they are, because knowledge might change, as I said, if they said something years ago compared to now. But I may have told you this, but when I was 21, I raised my energy to the highest frequency I'd ever been at in my life. And what happened was is that I believed I was a reincarnation of Jesus, right? And then I had to understand why that was. Brain activity releases energy, and that energy can be measured as a frequency. So Jesus, his brain activity can be measured at a frequency if you put him in a brain scan, right? And that was say 2000 years ago. And all it is just wisdom and brain activity, yeah? Understanding what life is. And once you know it, you kind of it's this like a default frequency. So I reached the frequency where I was getting all these thoughts and energies and vibrations of only one person that came to mind, Jesus, right? I never read the Bible. I didn't believe in religion or anything. And it was like, oh my God, all these thoughts I'm having, it's Jesus. And so I, for a period of like say 3 4 months, I thought, oh my God, I'm the reincarnation of Jesus. But then I kept questioning it further. Jesus, as we know, was a name given to that body. You wouldn't say go and speak to Richard, because that they'll say that's Jesus. So Jesus is only the physical body. And then I realized, okay, if Jesus died in the ground and his body's been eaten by animals and he's just got bones, right? And those bones have decomposed to mud, Jesus isn't in that ground anymore. His energy is still there. His presence is still there. What would Jesus say in this situation? He would say, forgive that person. Okay. 2000 years later, we're still saying the same thing. What would Jesus would have done? What would Noel would have done? What would have Trump done? What would Oliver have said? And you say, oh, we would have said this. And I realized that I simply was tuning into the vibrations of Jesus's thoughts because I'd reached the same vibration frequency as him. Like two magnets, we came together. And as I raised my energy even more, our frequencies became on a different channel. So I was on Walkie Talkie 4. He was on Walkie Talkie 4 when he died. That was 2000 years ago. So he can't go any higher than Walkie Talkie 4. But at 21, I'm on Walkie Talkie 4. I've got another 80 years left on the planet, which means I can potentially reach Walkie Talkie channel 104. And so as I raised my energy, I was on the different channel. And then I realized to myself, wow, if reincarnation exists, I absolutely was him. But if reincarnation is based on coming back as a person, a physical person, as opposed to a spirit, I couldn't have been Jesus because he was known as a body, which means I wasn't Jesus. Reincarnation doesn't exist. Because if it does, I'm tuning into the energy and it has nothing to do with body. And then I got onto the fact that consciousness, is it in the brain and dies when you die, or is it in the energy? And then what is consciousness? Is it part of the spiritual thing or the physical thing? And if it's part of the spiritual thing, then what commands that consciousness? Which means Jesus is still here. Everyone who dies is still here. So that does that mean, are they thinking right now? And then, thinking comes from the brain. The brain's in the ground. So how was Jesus thinking? To like knock on the door or make the lights flicker, or your grandfather trying to make a sign, knocking off that thing on the wall? And then if they're conscious, they need to eat. So what they're eating? There's no restaurants. And I went down this massive like path of, hang on a sec, I'm questioning everything. It's a load of bollocks. It goes back round to in your head, and based on what you believe in the first place, based on what somebody else told you is real. So again, you follow that path. Yeah, just I thought you'd find that very fascinating.
Super fascinating. I was following I can see how they could take you in circles and circles. Like I, we all like have what it is that we become aware of and conscious of, like in the moment that we're in. And like you said, like it seems to be that we'll be here longer, so we have an opportunity to raise our frequency and become aware and become more conscious of more things. So the way that I look at it is like we have the energy that we truly are, which is a fractal of all that is, like all that is energy. So we're a piece of that. We're expressing it right now as Noel, as Oliver. So we're expressing it in these human bodies. But that doesn't still mean that a part of us, like who we truly are, like we still have connection to it. Whether someone call that their higher self or they call that whatever it is that they call it. And so when we leave these physical bodies, like my perception is we can still connect with the higher self of that person, that we can always connect with, anyway. So it's like you still have your unique energy, your unique, things that made you when you were in the physical body. And that's what we can still connect with when we leave. Now, whether or not that same exact energy comes and incarnates into a new physical body, possible, that's specifically, I won't be able to say, because when you describe like the difference between that and that, but yeah, I don't really believe that anyone is like actually in the ground as far as the part of them that we can connect with. Like that's just because we leave these shells, these avatars like behind, and that's just, it's kind of like you take off a Halloween costume, like you're not the costume anymore. Like you're back to being who you truly are. The costume is now in the drawer or wherever you put it in. We don't say, oh, part of Oliver is still in the drawer. Like, no, that's just the costume that you were wearing for a period of time, and now you're back to being who you truly are. So that's how I perceive it.
Yeah, someone messaged me on Instagram, right, and they were saying to speak more about let me get it up, right? So do with medication versus meditation, right? But it's something really specific. I'm just gonna get it up. One sec. So she said, I would love to hear more about your holistic approaches to healing mentally. I haven't gotten through all your podcasts, but I believe it was the same podcast I mentioned earlier that you're talking about how medicine is not the answer. And I would love to hear more about that and what you believe are better approaches to heal the mind. So you answered that.
So really interesting. Like my journey with like plant medicine has evolved a lot over the years. Like I started with marijuana when I was 16, just because I could drive a car, and most of my friends didn't have cars, and I had the crappiest car on the planet. Like it didn't even. I share with you like some of the stories as far as how I had to start it to like drive it every time. It was very, very, very funny. But they would always want to ask me like, can we smoke in your car? Can we hotbox in your car? And I said, of course. Like, I mean, you know where I'm sitting. I'm in the driver's seat, of course. So I don't have any money to pay for this. So just pass it on around. So that was kind of my start with plant medicine, and also experimented with some mushrooms and all that stuff. But what I've noticed, like as I've gotten older, and it's still fun sometimes socially, like having the plant medicine experiences. But I've noticed how I can unlock these chemicals, like the same feelings. Like I've learned how to unlock these just raising my frequency. Like our body is a chemical factory. So the feeling that we feel from being, high from anything, actually we can reach that feeling, that frequency, without needing the actual substance. So it's super interesting. So I've discovered that for me, and what I've started to notice, like even in the last like year, is some of the side effects or parts of like plant medicine when it comes to marijuana that I don't enjoy. Like I'll be really specific and graphic with you guys. Not too graphic, but specific. Like I've started noticing, and I never noticed this till recently, but I could be like, say I was getting ready to have a sexual experience, and my partner, like we're already like full, like getting ready to go there, and then all of a sudden they say, "Let's smoke a little weed before." And I'm like, "Cool." And all of a sudden, like I noticed how my body was functioning just a few minutes ago, and then all of a sudden, I can't function as a male would need to function in order to like erection gone, and I can't feel my body at all. And I'm like, this is strange. Like just a second ago, you saw it. Like I was able, and then so this can be very uncomfortable, especially if it's like a new partnership or you haven't gone there with. It's like, no, I promise you, I really can perform. I really can function normally. And I've noticed sometimes that could take up to upwards of a half an hour to be able to feel my body again. And I'm like, I never noticed this before, but now that I started paying attention, that's become a side effect that I personally am not good with, especially if I know I can feel these frequencies without the substance. So I've started just to notice some of the side effects of different, drugs out there or plant medicines out there that it's not worth it to me because I could reach those frequencies or very similar frequencies without it. So that's kind of where I've been on my journey lately. If you would ask me this 2 years ago, might have been different. But since I moved to where I live now, it's not as accessible anyways. I'm from California, which probably most Americans would say that's where you get the best plant medicines from. But now I'm in Florida, which is not known for that at all. It's not even legal here. It's legal in California. So yeah, that's my journey as of now. But I always tell people, like, if one thing that's super important, they can help you reach frequencies that you didn't know were there. They can assist with that. But once you've reached a frequency that you've never felt before, if you can really tune into that, like almost like you just found a new radio station and you're like, ooh, I really like this channel. Like you don't just like forget about it. And like, especially if you had like, infinite channels to choose from, like you would take note of it. Like you take a screenshot or like write it down. Like you really try to get a feel for where that radio station is. So I highly recommend anybody out there do the same thing when you discover a new frequency, no matter what you're doing. Like really take note of how that feels. Like really try to capture the essence of that frequency. Because if you do, you can get back to it easy, and then you can go beyond once you can, more easily get back to that. And you can get to it without needing the substance, which if you start showing yourself you can do that, life is super fun. So
yeah, that's what Joe Rogan always says. People should try like DMT and hallucinogenic drugs, not for just because it stimulates a part of your brain which wouldn't have been stimulated. And it's almost like once you open up that door, you now have access to it. So when you take these drugs, don't use the drug to get there every time. Understand, what am I feeling right now? Write it down. And when the drug wears off, try and go back to there. And really all you're doing is thinking about something specific, which is making you think about more things in a specific way. Like, as I said, if it was Jesus, was the physical person, but the physical person's in the ground, which means you need consciousness, which is in the brain. So you can get back to that high if you understand why you're feeling this high. And if it means that the drugs have to get you there, then fantastic. But yeah, it's the same for like pharmaceutical medicine. Having been on 10 years of medication for Tourette's and how it just fucked up my thinking for 10 years, that when I came off it, I did 10 years worth of thinking in 3 weeks and the Tourette's went because it was brain activity. I know how medicine is simply just, we don't know how to solve this problem. Here, take this, because it's a solution for the moment. For the moment, meaning 4 seconds, 4 days, 4 weeks, until we find out how. And you might never find out how. But what it is doing to your body and how it imbalances the chemicals, it is like, I wanted to die so bad because I couldn't get to where I wanted to be in my head. And all it really was trying to understand and work out something that I couldn't process that thought because the medicine would slow my brain down and then I'd fall asleep. And so it is destructurous. And when I cured myself with meditation in 3 weeks after medication for 10 years, I'm against all medication. Now you could say that it could save somebody in that moment, which is arguably, that is correct, right? Would that person have got to where they wanted to be without medication? Maybe, maybe not. But the reason why they might have those problems is because they are seeing this stuff around them, and it's not in harmony, and it's not what they're seeing in their head. And everyone else is saying, "Oh, why are you doing that? Do this," and they're thinking, "No, I don't need to do that because of this." And this is balanced with the outside reflecting the inside, and they might just go off and kill themselves. So if they just went off in the middle of the jungle and lived there for 3 months, they would have enough time away from all the influence of energies and thoughts and TV and media and school for so long that they would literally find who they are. You work out all their problems because the problem was being in energies that weren't in harmony with their thoughts. Like at school, we're told it should be like this, or this mathematics equation needs to be done this way. I get the same answer, but it's the wrong way. So they tell me it's wrong. I got the same fucking answer. So how was it wrong? And the point is, I don't know because they're told it needs to be done like this in order to give that answer. And that's a true story. I got the same outcome of the number, but they didn't know how I did it because all I cared about was getting to the outcome, which ultimately is just getting what you want. Doesn't matter how you get there. And so, yeah, I do believe that you take people away from to society and energies, they will heal themselves so quickly, so quickly. Because that's all I did. Removed all my items, removed all my friends, spent 3 weeks just meditating on my bed, going through all my thoughts I couldn't work out years and years and years ago. Why did that person at 13 do this to me? I understand now because their father used to abuse him. It's not acceptable, but it's understandable. Gone. Thought gone. Next, please. And boom, gone. Tourette's disappeared.
Wow, that it's so true what you're saying. Like I would highly recommend if anybody out there is dealing with some significant challenges, like just rewind and listen to what Oliver just said again, because like I just someone else just told me just yesterday, as far as going on a like they want to go on like a year meditation retreat just for them, because they had actually had a version of that because they were in a country for 7 months where they didn't speak the language, and they kind of felt like a glimpse of that, and they discovered who they were like really quickly, and like the place of peace that they were speaking from that they didn't have like at the beginning of this year, was like next level for them. So the value of being able to be, because not only are most people, I won't say most people, but a lot of people not okay with being by themselves. They almost need, like it's like a lack, like a need of being like in the energies that you described, like, and they have to be around like have to be around social media, they have to be around other people, like if it's Friday or Saturday, like, oh my gosh, like I'm miserable if I don't have like a group of friends to go out with, like, and I see that, like, I hear it, like I hear how people are speaking, like, people will post and say, I'm so bored, like none of my friends are like free right now, like somebody please come hang out with me. And I'm just like, I have so much compassion because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine, like I haven't had in so many years, like I haven't had the need for anyone to spend time around me, like unless they were like super excited to, and I was super excited to spend time with them, awesome. But other than that, like in fact, I've shaped my life, and I think I'm really extreme case when it comes to this, but I've shaped my life to where I'm living now is not where I'm from. Like I don't have long time friendships here, or any family here. So there's really no one that is like feeling obligated for my time to where it's like, hey, it's the weekend, like Noel, let's go do this. I haven't had that in my experience the whole time I'm here. And I really enjoy like that, because it becomes, then if I'm in alignment with wanting to go do anything, then I can't. But, and I don't have any problem saying no to people that invite me to do things. I only do what I can put my full energy into, because it doesn't serve me or them if I say yes and take my physical body there, but mentally, like I'm wanting to do other things. Like I don't get the full experience, they don't get the full experience. It doesn't serve either of us. But yeah, what you just described, as far as just anybody just being okay with themselves and being able to get to know themselves and to be able to get away from like all the distractions and all the energy of this planet, that could cause dramatic changes in life for sure.
So in my mind, right, I see three fields. You got a field full of white sheep. The middle field is full of white and black sheep, and then the right field is in a field full of just black sheep, right? If all your life you've only ever seen white sheep, then that's all you're going to look for, right? So if all those beliefs are the beliefs that have only and always ever been there, then you won't have any thinking to do because that's all that's been there. If you flip it to the black field, it's just the same but in reverse. The people who have the problems with trying to get what's in their head on the outside are the people that are in the middle field with black and white sheep. So you've got white sheep saying you're all supposed to be white, then you've got black sheep saying you're all supposed to be black. And they're going backwards and forwards like, but he's saying it should be black, but it's white because my grandma's sheep and my uncle sheep had white fur. And they say, no, but my black uncle sheep had black fur. And so you're trying to constantly counteract that belief system. It's like if you're told something is something, it either is or it isn't. If it isn't, you question it because you don't want to believe something's not true. So it's like they're telling me 2 and 2 equals 4, but something's telling me it's actually 5. If it is 4, there's no questioning. And so if you imagine the middle field full of a mixture of black and white sheep, if you have more white sheep around you than black sheep, then the majority swings to the white sheep. And if you flip it in reverse, the people who truly have problems trying to get to the other end, who end up, committing suicide, are the ones that are literally bang in the middle, where you've got everyone saying life should be like this, and then you've got maybe a father who is a businessman or a cousin or grandfather that says you can be more than what you think life is. There's opportunities out there. Go traveling and shit like that. And you've got the other half saying just get a job and have a house and a family and that's it. Those are the people that really struggle because the force is just as powerful in both directions. Hence, that was me, right? I had my family in that force saying that. Then I have me, pretty much only me, the opposite side, right? So, and then eventually you just give up battling. It's like that girl doesn't like me, so it's either that I'm ugly or there's a reason why. So you either accept that I'm ugly and then that's just it, or you counteract it. Why didn't she like me? Oh, I get it, because she isn't as confident as me, so she feels inferior to me. So it's not actually personal to me. It's nothing to do with rejection or I'm ugly. There's a deeper meaning. So I've counteracted that thought, and so I'm content. Otherwise, it's like, well, I'm great looking, I've got loads of money. Why doesn't she want me? And then it's like you haven't ticked off that box. You haven't fulfilled that email, let's just say. And I realize that you can't help people unless they want to be helped, and that when you give advice, it would either resonate or it won't, and they will use that as a stepping stone to get themselves to the next stage. So I believe that with enough mentorship, you can help anyone, right? But no one's got enough time, potentially years, to mentor somebody every second of the day to get them there. So how are you supposed to do it? And the answer is they do it themselves, and you're just the stepping stone of a belief thing that resonate with them. And then when I truly understood that, again, it's a massive piece of yourself, because just by speaking of our experiences, people listening are going to do the work themselves. They already recognize that they are that sheep in the middle, black sheep saying this, white sheep saying that, and they're constantly thinking, well, they're telling me life is like this, but then monks in Israel were saying it's like that. They're happier over there, but everyone at school's saying this, but they're unhappy. So it's like, what the fuck is the right way? And the answer is there is no right way. If you grow up with black sheep in the black field, you look for people to have wool that's black, and the same for the white wool. And there's no right and there's no wrong. It's just if you're in the middle, it is fucking horrible because you're constantly trapped in your head.
I love that analogy with the sheep on both sides. It's so true. No, it's like for me, it's just I've always been one where like I'm going to do what I want to do. Like some people call me like really selfish. But my response always was like, I'm just way more fun to be around if I'm like taking care of me. So it just trust me, like you want me to do what I want to do right now, because when we come back and when we actually do hang out, I'm going to be way more fun to be around versus if I come to do this thing and right now I really don't want to. Trust me, you will not want me around. So I've always been this way. And my parent, and I've realized like that's actually been like now it's like that's what I would teach anyone. Like, hey, like take care of you first. Not that you're never going to like care about spending time or helping anyone or anything like that, but you can't do it if you're not first taking care of yourself. You don't have anything to give. We can't pour from an empty cup. And what you were just describing right there is so important. Like the best way that we can help anyone, like the way that we can help people the most is just the example, like being the example, like being the light. And then you can remind them, like Oliver's sheep analogy, like if you could just be like who you truly are, then they'll be reminded by looking at you, because we're all mirrors for each other. They'll be reminded of who they truly are, and whether they choose to step into that right then and there or not, their choice. You can't do anything. Like you can't force anyone to choose anything. Like all I care about is helping people have the awareness that there is a choice to be made. But you'll never hear me say that you should or shouldn't do anything. I don't even know when the last time that I've used those words out of my mouth. Because if someone said that like around me, I'd be like, well, says who? Like, where is it written in clouds somewhere that you should or shouldn't do anything? And just all I care about is that that with every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if you choose to go out and you slap the hell out of somebody today, like, let's not be surprised if there's a energy that rolls back to you that either slaps the hell out of you or you lose your freedom over it. Like, you don't just get to go around like slapping the hell out of people and be okay without a reaction coming back to you. But I don't care what anyone chooses out there. It's just know that things are going to always have a consequence for every action, and it doesn't have to be like a bad consequence, but there's a consequence for everything that we do. So just choose for yourself and ask yourself really what is it that you want to see in your life, what's most important to you, and then put your energy there. Be that now. Like, don't need to have the whatever that is before you can be the energy of that. But because any of that, what we want is just, we're like, I'll be happy when I have this. I used to say that all the time. Like, watch your words out there. Like, I'll be happy when, and my happiness is always in the future. And when I was like, wait a minute, if I'm just wanting those things so that I could be happy, why can't I just be happy right now? Like, there's so many ways to be happy now. And then all of a sudden you start manifesting those things, which that's a whole other beautiful part of life. And you have awesome manifestation short stories when you came on my show as well. So that went in a lot of directions. I don't even know what we were talking about, but the sheep's analogy sparked all that.
So something else that's interesting, just to try and understand and work out when it happens. For example, I was in my bedroom earlier on. I had a go, which is not relevant. Earlier ago, and I came downstairs. I looked at my mum. I went in the kitchen. Literally, this is all in between. This is all in 5 seconds. I walk in the lounge. I look at my mum. I fill up my jug. I say, "Have you worked out how much my sister has got for Christmas?" Right, because then she gives me the same equal, right? And she said, I just thought that. Within 5 seconds of you saying it, I just thought that. And so I thought, okay, did I think about that upstairs unconsciously? She picked up on that thought, and I then said it because I already thought about it. Or did she simply think about it and I picked up on her thought because she didn't say it quick enough? Trying to understand that is powerful, because then when you understand why things happen, do they happen because you want it to happen and put the thought out there? Or did it happen because you were thinking about that person because they were thinking about you? And it's like, it's a really powerful thing and complicated thing. And it's like, there's really no way to work it out, because unless they call or speak what they've thought immediately, you're never going to know whether you were going to pick up the thought or not. But in that 5 second gap, my mum thought it, didn't say it, and I picked it up. And then I was saying thoughts travel quicker than light. So, for example, if you see a lightning bolt, the thunderstorm sound happens, say, 8 seconds later, but a thought happens immediately. And I said, thoughts are the most powerful thing on the planet. They can transfer to someone in Australia. Like, I could think about you and you'd think about me immediately. And there's no such thing as time. But just like a fascination of, wow, all my thoughts that are coming into my head aren't actually mine. Because that thought of, are you going to, work out how much my sister got? That wasn't my thought. That was my mum's thought. So then you think, how many thoughts in my head are other people's just simply thinking of me? A friend, a neighbor, a boss, someone you've not even seen for years. They think, oh, me and Noel went out to McDonald's that time. And then you just think of McDonald's and you go to get McDonald's. So that wasn't even your thought. That was someone else's thought 10 years ago at high school. But that is just crazy to understand, how majority of our thoughts are other people trying to call you. The phone line, as I said, that just everyone's queuing up on those lines thinking about you, to the point where when you give yourself time in nature, as I said, and you don't have to fuck off to Thailand to find yourself, just literally lock yourself in your house for 3 weeks, yeah, the meditation retreat. Then those thoughts, you can actually work out, are these thoughts mine? Are they relevant? And the only way you do that is just to spend time with yourself and stop acting on all these thoughts, going to McDonald's, calling a friend, watching this Netflix thing, buying this shirt, doing all this. Just got to eliminate all these thoughts. That's what my Tourette's was, just a fucking overload of brain activity.
Super interesting. Like, because everything Oliver shared and anybody would share, I mean, it's all possibility. So anytime I'm listening to anyone sharing, I'm like, yep, that's possible. Like when he described did his mom think the thought first, or did he think the thought and his mom picked up on it? Both possible.
Yes, exactly. And
So
he's, yeah.
yeah, so it's that, to me, that's the fascinating part of life, and like highly recommend, like anybody out there, like leave life open to possibility. Like when you start being so rigid that this is this way and this is that way, I mean, unless it's like, yeah, if I go jump off the balcony right now, I'm not going to do this as an example. But whether I'm a good person, bad person, I'm happy today or sad today, like law of gravity is going to say that I'm going down, just like all the rest of us would. So, I don't leave that open to possibility that I might fly up. Like I just know that I'm going down, and everybody can know that for themselves too. But like everything else, like if it's not that clear to me, I just leave it open up to possibility. And I know right now, like what I feel is, when it comes to that, like for instance, when it comes to thoughts, because it's totally possibility. And I've seen it happen many times where I've thought about someone or someone's thought about me, and then all of a sudden we're on the phone together, and all of these things. So it's super interesting. What I also pay attention to when it comes to thoughts is, say that thought pops in your mind about Jack in the Box or Jack in the Box, McDonald's. That's another version of McDonald's out here, or any other thing that pops into your mind. And depending on the frequency that we're in, like the mood that we're in, in that moment, the following thoughts are going to be a match to that. So say you do have that McDonald's pop in your mind, and like you just decided today you're out in nature, you're at peace, like you're just enjoying the day, and that pops into your mind, and you're like, man, there were some really good times at McDonald's. Like we used to play in the playpen, and that milkshake was like my favorite, and I used to mix all the flavors together, and like really love like that place. Or you could, that same thought could pop in your head, and maybe it came from someone else, and maybe in the moment, like you're in a shit mood. Maybe you just finished like yelling at your family or yelling at your dog or whatever, and that's the mood that you're in. And then that McDonald's pops in your mind, and then you're like, see, this is the problem with the world, because all these places, these ingredients in here, and McDonald's probably has America probably has the worst McDonald's on the planet. All these other countries have fresh ingredients. They're not even using real meat. Like you could just go down the rabbit hole just based off of the frequency that you're in. So, I mean, whatever like you think about, like you're going to pick up momentum just based off of the frequency that you're in. So I'm super mindful of, like, I just notice if it gets to the point where you're noticing your thoughts and being like, ooh, like that's not so pleasant. It's a really good indicator of how you've been vibrating, like what your vibration is. And not saying there's anything right or wrong with it, or that you should even do anything about it. But once you're aware of it, you may choose to, because now you do have the choice. So
Yeah, I remember when I reached my highest frequency, that every time I got a thought, because I was in pure meditation, right? There was nothing to think about. I knew that if I got a thought, that it was because of somebody else, because I had no thoughts, right? It was because of somebody else. And what I did is that as soon as I got a thought, I did it. So if I got a thought to go to the shop, I go to the shop. If I got a thought to get in my car and drive around the block, I'd go. If I got a thought to go to the casino, I'd go. I wouldn't question, I would go immediately, to the point where I would already be ready, knowing a thought would come. Otherwise, if I had to get ready and have a shower, you've already missed the opportunity, right? The train's already gone. And it was all about being in real time with thoughts. No joke. Every single time I got a thought and I took action, something happened that was already in my past thoughts. And then when I was there, another thought came into my head, and I would do that. So I'd go to the casino, and I get a thought to go to the other casino. Wouldn't question it. I would just go. And I was like hopping from thought to thought to thought. And I realized that every thought links. For example, I was dating a person called Robin, right? And every single person that I met, their name tag, McDonald's, the casino, the drive-through, the Burger King lady, was called Robin. And it's a very rare name, right? Every single person was called Robin. So I created this massive consciousness of Robin, the frequency of take me to Robin's. So if I got a thought to go to, say, the car wash, it was only going to be because one of those people are called Robin. If I got a thought to go somewhere else, it's because they're called Robin. And I remember everyone was called Robin, and I was like, holy shit, what is going on? This is incredible, right? And I looked next to me, and there was a number plate, and it said Robin whatever, and I was like, holy fuck. So I didn't have any restriction. I was open to any possibility. Take me to London. Like I had no need to go to London, but if I got the thought to go London, I would go. I wouldn't even question it. If I got the thought to go on the train, I'd be next to somebody and then she'd be like, "Oh, hey Robin, whatever." So the thoughts literally were linked to each thought. So just by thinking and doing and then thinking and doing, it does link. And you literally go on this, I can explain like a cartwheel where each thought rolls onto the next one.
Mm.
So that's when you don't question it and you don't go back. You just keep going forward. So if you've got two thoughts now in your room, choose one. Don't do that and then do the other one later because that's a parallel thought. That's not, rolling on in the future. Think of something, do it, go to your friend's house. When you're there, if you get a thought to call up your mate Jack, call Jack. Yeah. And then when you call Jack, it just keep applying action to the last thought. And it is the most powerful thing anyone could ever do because you literally go into places that you would have never ever been because you would never have done that unless you had a reason to do that. So people just have all these thoughts and then they choose to do that and then do that thought tomorrow. Not many people essentially have a thought list that rolls off the last thought. So you only think about that last thought when you did that last thought, as opposed to thinking, I want a pair of shoes now, I want to have food now, I want to have a shower now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Question for you: what's the possibility of, because you meant you started that because it's awesome what you're describing, but you started it with that when you were in your highest frequency and like you had released all thought because you were just in this meditative states, so you were able to follow the trails. What about the person that is just, was that the requirement to be able to do what you're doing? If you were sharing with someone, like they had their mind all over the place, like to be able to like choose which thought to follow, they'd be, they don't have enough time in the day. So would that be the quieting your mind first and then before following the trail? Would that be your advice to someone?
Yeah, so this could only have been done if I had a quiet mind. So imagine a monk just sitting there, no thoughts. You have to be silent and have no thoughts in order to get a thought. Otherwise, you're sat there thinking, I've got to clean the toilet, pick the kids up from school, I've got to read, got to do my emails. Fucking your head's full of thoughts. So you don't know what thought is the one for you. It's just like diary of thoughts, right? So you have to slow your brain down first. And I remember, no joke, before I got to that point of no thoughts and then thinking and doing, I remember every single time I had a thought, I would take action. So I'd message that person, I would do that thing, I would tidy my bedroom because I procrastinated my whole life. My whole life. So much stuff I needed to do, right? And so if I think tidy my room, I hear my dad's voice say, do it now, later you'll forget. So I'll get off my ass, I would put my bedroom in order. If I think, okay, you've left your bike outside, put it in the garage, I'd do it immediately. So all of a sudden I realised that everyone's got so many thoughts that they use as their purpose to live. People, for example, they live at home and they've always got something to do. And I used to say, if you're not in the house, the bins won't need emptying because you won't fucking be there. So go out and do shit. So people's purpose is like always having something to do. Because then if you've got nothing to do, what is there to do? And the answer is nothing. And we want something to do. So I did all those things that came into my mind, like I should have given my friend's top back, or I should have paid that money back, or I need to pay this debt, go to the bank. I would do it immediately because I procrastinated for so long. And because I did all that shit, there was no thoughts left. So the only thing I had to do was go over the thoughts in my head, which once you've thought about it, then it's over. Because I've done all the physical thoughts, hence the Tourette stuff. And then those no thoughts in my head, there's no Tourette's. Now I'm a monk. So I'm a Tourette's kid with a fucking messy physical bedroom, tidy bedroom Tourette's kid, processed all my thoughts. Now I'm just a monk with nothing. And I was a monk in my house with nothing. I just had a bed. And then every time a thought came in, I did it because there was no other thoughts.
Mm. I love that. That's a really great reminder for all of us. And I'm very I call the thoughts that you're describing as like just downloads from the universe. And those, I act on those so quickly. Like there'll be times where, a lot of times actually, I'll be in a meditation and I'll just get the download to send someone a voice note, and like literally people will get downloads from me like real time. Like it's just like here and then there. I'm like recording like right away. And a lot of times those are the most powerful things that spark lots of really cool things from there. So I'm gonna be mindful of what you described even more, and just start paying, especially the ones that involve like going to taking action that takes me out of the house. I'm gonna be mindful of those, because I remember your casino stories from our episode on my show, and you have some really really cool manifestations as a result of just following the intuition.
Last year, literally this time last year, I did a quarter manifestation, second quarter, third quarter, and then a whole year thing. I put last year around this time, I want 100 grand in the bank by the end of the year. I just thought, fuck it, let's just put it right. I don't know how. There's no loss. I put 100 grand, right? And because I thought to myself, well, it's been a shitty year. I never got to do my public speaking events, which is on the manifestation board. I would have if there wasn't COVID, but I didn't. So I didn't really pay attention to the yearly goals. It's only recently that I read through those goals, and there's 100 grand on there. And right now, there is one possibility that could get me that 100 grand, right? If it happens, I would never question the law of attraction again. Because when I was 21, I went to this high frequency and then it dropped because I had to teach my parents. So I stopped my business creative ideas. But if this manifests, this 100 grand lead, as I should say, is in the only option right now that I could think that I could bring it. Holy shit. 1 year ago, I put 100 grand. I thought, this is fucking crazy. Like, no way. If it does happen, I'm coming to America. Mark this word. I'm coming to America to see you. As I said, who knows what will happen? A talk on the beach, whatever. If this happens, even if it doesn't happen, I will still do it. But in terms of that linking shit, I need the money to do that, which allows me to do that. That's it. The point was that I put it on my board, didn't question it, didn't know how. There's a lead right now. And I was like, holy shit. That's the thought. What I was going to say is what you were saying is that the best, when someone makes you an offer in business, the first offer, subject to not being fucking stupid, like too cheap, is always the best one. So when you get a thought, as you said, to WhatsApp your friend, you're already in harmony. It's already linked. Like there's a buyer for a seller. You're selling something. That person who messaged you on Facebook, he's the right candidate. I know from experience that if somebody makes an offer and I turn it down, I end up selling it for less than what the person made an offer for because I wanted more. And it's like, what's the price of this? What somebody wants to pay for it. There's no such thing as this is worth this. It's what somebody wants to pay for it. And right now, that person had 300 quid. I should have sold my scooter for that, and I didn't. And I've still got the fucking scooter. So just keep when it comes in, take it. When it comes in, take it.
I love the adventure of life where you just described. It's just the fun of knowing that the possibility is always there for in so many different ways. But there's one that's specifically like the Oliver that you're seeing. I think is awesome. That the adventure of life is so much fun. I just love to see because I have the visions for what I want to see. I just look at life as a movie, and I'm the star of my movie and co-starring with all 7.7 billion other co-stars, and I don't know who's gonna show up in my scene. Like right now, Oliver and I are in this scene of the movie, and I'm fascinated because I know what I'm excited to see in the movie, like overall, and all the different areas of life, and what I'm excited to create. And at the same time, I have no idea the exact plot. None of us do the exact plot of from this. All I know is that in this scene, like I'm experiencing an awesome scene with Oliver. What the next scene is going to look like, I have an idea because I have my schedule today. However, I don't know what that scene is exactly going to be. But as far as like to lead to all of the things that I'm excited to see manifest, no idea. And it's so fat. It's so fun. Like it used to be a time in life where that would like make me anxious, and that can make us anxious if we try to figure it out. But I don't care how it happens. I just know it's already in motion. And every day I do what I can do with what I have from where I am, and then I continue to be shown the next scene. Like, oh, I'm in this scene now. Now I'm going to see what I can do in this scene. What adventure can we have? What fun can we have? So I love what you described because it's all part of the adventure of life.
Yeah, I call that choose whether you're going north, south, east, and west, and just keep walking. Because you can't plan, I need to go there to get there, because there could be a river, there could be a mountain, there could be a swamp, there could be crocodiles. So when you get there, you're like, shit, There's fucking crocodiles. Like the stream, I'm gonna go all the way down over there to get to the bridge because I told myself I was gonna go this way, and then there's a mountain in the way. Whereas if you just knew generally where you were going, north, and you just flowed, you could see from the distance, okay, looks like a mountain, I'll go left. Looks like there's a stream, I'll go right. Looks like there's woods, I'll go the other way. But instead, people they go to that mountain. Oh, fuck. Now where do I go? So having a general direction but not knowing exactly is exciting. And I agree with you. I've always lived like that, not knowing where I'm going, but kind of having a rough direction. Like if I'm hungry, I know I'm going out for food. I don't know what restaurant it's going to be. And people are like, let's go to this restaurant. Let's book it at this time. Like, for fuck's sake, can't we just flow? Because you probably won't even have that food.
For sure. Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah, like scheduling stuff with me too. I mean, I get the calendar because I know which hours of the day. Like, and the way I even create my schedule is okay. This is when this is when nature is how I really like it. So this time and this time, like you can't schedule with me. But in between, like there's things that I want to create so that the vision that I have for life and what I'm creating I can put time and energy into that so I can manifest that. And at the same time, I know my schedule today stops at a specific time, and it seems to like it might be a nice day. So I'm gonna go outside in nature a little bit and enjoy for sure. So that's super important to be able to flow with life because if without that, like when life is too rigid and it's like too planned and like everything has to be that way, and if this is how you enjoy living out there, like I'm not saying you're wrong for it. For me, it doesn't sound as fun because the adventure is taken away. And if you take the adventure away from me, like I'm not the same human. And I've noticed that in different areas of my life where, I had these rules on my life and some in relationship, but it was just self-imposed rules at the beginning. But it took the adventure away. Like I wasn't allowed to just go outside in nature and maybe not come back home until whenever because I'm just enjoying myself. Maybe I met a human. Like it wasn't allowed. So there's been nothing in my life like for a while that impose on my adventure for life. Like whether it be a job or a specific relationship, like if it takes away from my feeling of freedom and adventure, I don't want it in my life. But I can have those things in my life, whether it be relationships or things. But up front, like I'm just very clear as far as my love and enjoyment for freedom and adventure. And if that person has a love and enjoyment for that too, or at least is excited for me for that element of life, then we can hang out. If not, like we can still be cool. But I'm not changing what is my favorite part of life because of what others might feel or think about it. That's what we get to do. It's fun being on a planet with 8 billion people because you get to know, well, at least there's other people that will want to still, vibe with me, even though I'm clear that this is the way that I want to live life. So.
Right. So we've got more to speak about next time. We'll stop it there. Anything you want to promote?
Just go to my Instagram. It's the Angel of Abundance. We're spreading the universal abundance community all around the world, helping people uplift consciousness and manifest their visions. We're helping each other manifest our visions and create abundance to do it. So come check me out on Instagram, the Angel of Abundance.
Right. I'm going to stop it there. Wait there.